A teenage girl vanished in broad daylight, and no one saw a thing. It was just another warm summer day in August of 1972. 16-year-old Jeannette DePalma stepped out the door of her family's home in Springfield, New Jersey. She told her mom she was going to hang out with a friend in the next town over. But Jeannette never made it back home. Weeks later, her disappearance went from concerning to chilling. Her body was found deep in the woods on a creepy hillside locals called the Devil's Teeth. It wasn't just that she was found, it's how she was found that made the whole town whisper. Her body was surrounded by strange symbols, sticks and stones arranged in patterns nobody could explain. Pretty soon everyone started talking. Was it witchcraft? A satanic ritual? Nobody knew for sure. 50 years later, nobody's been arrested, nobody's sure what happened, and the case is still wide open. This isn't just another cold case. This is the story of a mystery that still haunts an entire community. This is the case of Jeannette DePalma. Jeannette DePalma was just your typical 16-year-old girl living in Springfield, a quiet little suburban town in New Jersey. If you flip through old yearbooks or family albums, you'd see a bright-eyed teenager, always smiling and surrounded by friends and family. People who knew her described her as artsy, curious, and someone who wasn't afraid to speak her mind. Jeannette came from a traditional Italian-American Catholic family. Her faith was important to her, and she spent a lot of time at church events, especially as she got older. Friends noticed her starting to explore bigger questions about life, faith, and morality. But Jeannette was also a regular teenager of the 1970s. Sure, she went to church, but she also went to parties. Nothing that unusual for kids her age back then. She wasn't wild, just figuring life out like everyone else. That August, everything seemed normal. No major drama, no big family arguments, just another summer winding down. On August 7th, she casually told her mom she was heading to see a friend in Summit, just a short bus ride away. It wasn't a big deal. She'd done it plenty of times before. Her mom didn't think much of it, busy with chores around the house. But when the afternoon turned into evening and Jeannette wasn't back, worry set in. Her mom started calling around. Friends, neighbors, anyone who might know where she was. But no one had seen her. By nightfall, her parents got the police involved. The cops didn't think it was too serious at first. Back then, teenagers running off for a day or two wasn't unheard of. They figured she'd come home after a couple days, but she didn't. Days turned into weeks with zero sign of Jeannette. Her family posted flyers everywhere. Friends knocked on doors. The town buzzed with concern. But eventually, that concern turned into quiet whispers. Rumors started that maybe she ran into trouble or fell in with a bad crowd. Some said darker things were happening around Springfield, things that people didn't talk about openly. Then suddenly, the whispers got louder, and a normal teenage girl's disappearance became something much more frightening. Jeannette had been found, and the discovery shocked everyone. It was September 19, 1972, when a local man's dog came home carrying something horrifying in its jaws, a human forearm. The shocked owner immediately called the police, and what followed was something straight out of a nightmare. Police traced the dog's path deep into the woods and up a steep, rocky hill known locally as the Devil's Teeth. This place had a reputation for being eerie and isolated, exactly the kind of spot parents warned their kids about. When authorities reached the top, what they found was deeply unsettling. Jeannette's skeletal remains lay sprawled across the ground in an unnatural pose, described by some officers as resembling a crucifixion. But what truly baffled investigators were the strange arrangements around her body. Sticks, stones, and branches laid out in unusual patterns, seemingly symbolic or ritualistic. Some reports even claimed there were makeshift altars or animal bones nearby, though these details have never been officially confirmed. Immediately, Springfield's small-town atmosphere turned tense. This was no ordinary crime scene. Even the most skeptical officers admitted they'd never seen anything quite like it. The local police, overwhelmed and under-equipped, tried to secure the area, but by the time they cordoned it off, curious locals had already wandered close. It was the kind of scene that invited gossip, and gossip moved faster than evidence collection. The autopsy offered little clarity. Jeannette had been dead for weeks, and decomposition was advanced. There were no clear signs of trauma, no bullet wounds, no stab marks, no broken bones. Her cause of death was officially listed as undetermined. That word, undetermined, left room for everything. And into that vacuum, stories started to spread. People said it had to be a ritual, that there was a satanic cult in the area, that this was just the beginning. Parents warned their kids to stay inside. Teenagers dared each other to visit the hill at night. The Devil's Teeth had become more than a nickname. It was now legend. Reporters arrived, drawn by the strange details and eerie photos. The media fed the hysteria with headlines talking about witches, sacrifices, and occult symbols. Some outlets even suggested that Jeannette had been involved in the occult herself, a theory her family strongly denied. Police followed every lead they could. They interviewed friends, classmates, church members, and strangers. They even questioned a few known troublemakers in the area, but nothing stuck. No one was charged. No real suspect ever emerged. Files started to go missing. Reports weren't filed properly. Evidence vanished. Depending on who you ask, this was either typical small-town incompetence or something more deliberate. By early 1973, the investigation had run out of steam. The case quietly faded into the background, unsolved and unresolved. But for the people of Springfield, and especially for Jeannette's family, it never really went away. After the case fizzled out, Springfield was left with far more questions than answers. And as time passed, those unanswered questions morphed into theories. Dozens of them. Some people in the community believed Jeannette was killed by a local cult. They pointed to the strange symbols, the arrangement of her body, the rumors of rituals deep in the woods. In the 1970s, stories of devil worship and black masses were making headlines across the country, and for many, Jeannette's case fit right into that narrative. One group in particular kept coming up in whispers: the DeSnakes, a supposed group of teenagers or young adults known for experimenting with the occult. Some locals said they held rituals in the quarry near the Devil's Teeth. Others believed the group was just an invention, part urban legend, part scapegoat. But one name linked to the group showed up more than once in anonymous tips. Police questioned him at the time, but no charges were ever filed. But others thought it was just hysteria. They argued that the supposed symbols around her body could have been random or disturbed by animals. Maybe people simply saw what they wanted to see, especially in an already anxious community. There were also those who believed Jeannette was killed by someone she knew. A friend, an acquaintance, someone from her church group or social circle. Jeannette had reportedly been getting more involved in her faith. And that change, some said, created friction with certain people around her. One name that emerged was a local boy she'd spent time with that summer. Rumors hinted at jealousy, at a falling out, nothing concrete, but enough to keep tongues wagging. And then there was the mysterious man who came forward years later, claiming he knew who killed Jeannette. He said it was a satanic group. He even gave names. But his story changed over time. Sometimes the details didn't match. And although he passed a polygraph test, there was no hard evidence. Nothing ever came of it. In the 1990s and 2000s, renewed attention brought fresh eyes to the case. Journalists started digging. One particularly dedicated reporter tried to piece together what had happened, but kept hitting walls. Missing files, lost evidence, reluctant witnesses. It was like the case was cursed or buried on purpose. Meanwhile, Jeannette's family never stopped pushing for answers. Her nieces and nephews, who never got the chance to know her, grew up with this looming question hanging over their heads. What really happened to Aunt Jeannette? Over the decades, Jeannette became more than just a victim. She became a symbol, a cautionary tale. Her name became shorthand for every strange noise in the woods, every teenager who didn't come home on time, every ghost story passed around campfires in Union County. The Devil's Teeth Hill is still there. Some say it's haunted, others just avoid it altogether. But even if you've never walked up that rocky slope, her story finds a way to follow you. Today, the case remains officially unsolved. But unofficially, everyone's got a theory. Was it a cult? A cover-up? A personal vendetta? Or something else entirely? And maybe that's the scariest part, that after all this time, after all the rumors, reports, and retellings, we're no closer to the truth than we were in 1972. But maybe the truth is still out there, waiting in a forgotten police file, hidden in the memory of someone who saw something but never said a word. Or maybe the Devil's Teeth are holding on to their secret just a little bit longer. Jeannette deserved answers, and until she gets them, this story doesn't end. The case of Jeannette DePalma remains unsolved after over 50 years. No one was ever charged. No official cause of death, just speculation, and a community left wondering. Stories like this remind us how fragile the truth can be and how easily it can disappear. If you want to explore more cold cases, subscribe. We dig deeper every week.